Welcome to the Chronological Bible Journey, where we discover God's whole story one day at a time. I'm Michael. I'm here with Derek today, and we're going to be your guides as we discuss our readings from the Gospels. It is day 285, Derek. Let's hop into this.
Well, Michael, there's a lot of great stuff in our reading today, and really it was a little difficult to kind of pinpoint down where I just wanted to focus. But I want us to just look at one passage, and I want you to read the whole thing. Can you do this? Okay, it's Mark chapter 8.
Thanks for that heads up.
Verses 31 through 38.
Then Jesus began to tell them that the Son of Man must suffer many terrible things and be rejected by the elders, the leading priests, and the teachers of religious law. He would be killed, but 3 days later he would rise from the dead. As he talked about this openly with his disciples, Peter took him aside and began to reprimand him for saying such things. Jesus turned around and looked at his disciples, then reprimanded Peter. "Get away from me, Satan," he said. "You are seeing things merely from a human point of view, not from God's." Then, calling the crowd to join his disciples, he said, "If any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way, take up your cross, and follow me. If you try to hang on to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake and for the sake of the good news, you will save it. And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my message in these adulterous and sinful days, the Son of Man will be ashamed of that person when he returns in the glory of his Father with the holy angels."
Thank you, Michael. You did a great job. There is a lot here. Jesus shares with his disciples why he has come to earth.
He was pretty clear.
He was very clear right there. To suffer terrible things, be rejected by the religious people, die, and 3 days later raise from the dead.
And yet they would still continue to struggle with this concept.
Right. What's going on? Where's he going? All of that stuff. This was a fulfillment to passages like we read in Isaiah 53 that talks about the Messiah coming. What's interesting to me is that everybody that was looking for the Messiah to come was looking for what type of Messiah?
A bold, strong figure.
Yeah, somebody that would most likely be a political figure, a political leader that would maybe free them from Rome, that would take back everything that was theirs and all that. So it was strange to everybody listening that Jesus was talking about being rejected by the very people that were supposed to be looking for the Messiah. The Old Testament had laid out when he was, what he was going to look like and what things were going to happen to him. And so he's really telling them, kind of rehashing what everything was prophesied in the Old Testament. And yet many of them rejected him. I find it fascinating because these were the people that were supposed to be studying, supposed to be looking for him, like the wise men when they came to worship Jesus when he was a couple years old, that they had studied and looked for him and they had found when he was going to be there. But yet they were the ones that were going to reject him. No one would have ever thought that the Messiah would have suffered or been rejected. And yet he's prophesying that this is exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, they pictured someone in all of their glory and might coming and putting the Romans in their place, whipping them out of Jerusalem and out of Israel and being like, "We are the people now, y'all will serve us."
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the only time they probably ever saw Jesus somewhat in the way they thought they would see the Messiah is when he was flipping over the tables
in the temple.
In the temple.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, that's the Jesus we're looking for. Now head to Rome and take care of it.
But where are the Romans in this?
That's right. But what is so fascinating to me in this specific story here is what Peter does. Peter takes Jesus to the side and he rebukes him. Now, stop and think about that. Peter has just said just a few verses before that he's the Messiah. So he knows this is the Son of God. He's come to save us. And yet Peter thinks he's whatever enough to take Jesus to the side and to put him in his place, to rebuke him. And then it's interesting that we see in verse 33, Jesus looks at Peter and says, "Get away from me, Satan," he said. "You are seeing things merely from a human point of view, not from God's." So it's interesting. Jesus says, "Get behind me, Satan." But then he also says that Peter's looking at it from a human point of view. It's very fascinating, Michael, that when we tend to look at our problems, issues, anything in our lives through a human point of view, how the devil will seep in
Mhm.
and that we'll begin to follow and believe the lies that he's telling us. And this is what happens with Peter. Peter's like, nah, that can't be right. Jesus, let me catch you up to speed here. This is what you're supposed to be. And he's rebuking him. Well, then Jesus turns around and he rebukes Peter. And he says, no, you're wrong here. And so Peter rebukes him, then Jesus rebukes him. But what's interesting is
We got rebuking going all over the place.
We got it all over the place, but look at verse 30. So we're going to back up a couple verses. Michael, read Mark 8:30 for us.
Then he asked them, "But who do you say I am?" Peter replied, "You are the Messiah."
So just a few verses before, Peter is saying, you're God, you're the Messiah, you're the one that the Lord has sent to us. And now, just a couple moments later, Jesus is looking at the same guy that just said you're the Messiah, and he says, "Get behind me, Satan."
And I don't always criticize Peter too much in this because anytime that the Lord has guided me through Scripture and said, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to live, and I respond with anything other than yes, I'm doing the exact same thing that he's doing.
And we've done that quite often.
Are you sure, God?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to make sense. You would not be leading me in this way or doing that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I love what you said. It doesn't make sense. Rarely does what he do in our lives make sense.
Yeah, because we can't see it from his perspective.
That's right. One writer said this, we can be sure that Peter was not aware that he spoke for Satan, just as a moment before he was not aware that he had spoke for God. It is often much easier to be a tool of God or of the devil than we want to believe. Our words matter.
Yeah.
Peter had just been a great example to the rest of the disciples when Jesus was saying, some people say I'm this, some people say I'm this. Who do you say I am? And Peter's the one that spoke up. He's the one that led them, and he said, you are the Messiah. You're the Christ. You're the one we've been waiting for. And I can imagine what that did to the disciples. That rallied them. No, he recognizes that this Jesus is the Messiah. He's the Christ, and they believed. And yet just a couple moments later, here he is rebuking Jesus, and Jesus is having to use the language, "Get behind me, Satan." Jesus gives a strong warning to those that want to follow him at the end of this passage. He gives to deny yourself. Now, someone said this, denying self is not the same as self-denial. We practice self-denial when, for a good purpose, we occasionally give up things or activities. But when we deny self is when we surrender ourselves to Christ and determine to obey his will. So, Michael, I want to just ask you, just personally in your own life, what does it look like to deny self, practically speaking?
Well, that means anytime that my natural self is responding to some situation, whether that is fear or pride or arrogance, that I have to catch that and say, this is not from the Lord, and turn away from it.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like for me. But I've got to be in tune with the Lord.
Well, that's right.
To catch that.
Yeah, it's very easy to swing the other way. I've heard it said this. My dad used to tell me this a lot when I was growing up. He used to say, Derek, when we give our lives to Christ, we forfeit our own rights. I tell people this when I'm doing premarital counseling. I say, listen, when you stand up before the Lord and all those people and you say, I do to one another, that's a very big statement. Because what you're saying is, I do to you and I do to you, but what you're also saying is, I don't to everyone else. The other 8 billion people in the world, I don't. And I'm making this covenant and commitment to you that it's you and you alone. And so when we follow Christ, we're saying I don't to everything else. And we always like to think of it as I'm saying I don't to the world. We're also saying I don't to my flesh. Mm-hmm. And we're giving up our rights. And if we had time, we could walk through all the different rights we give up. We have the right, we lose the right to take revenge, because vengeance is his, saith the Lord. We lose the right to have to be comfortable and secure. We lose the right to have a good reputation. We lose the right to spend money however we please. And we could go on and on and on about all the rights that we forfeit because we say, you are now Lord of my life.
He's in charge.
And can I just say this as we get ready to close? That's a whole lot easier said than done. But he is a good, good Father. And if we will just trust him and follow the plan that He has for us, He will never lead us astray.
Yeah, and sometimes when we think we have come so far and He is Lord over all of our lives, then we're reminded, oh, here's another area that I need to allow Him to be in charge.
Yeah, none of us have arrived. It is a journey.
It is definitely a journey.
Yeah.
Wow, what a great reminder. Thank you for joining us again on the Chronological Bible Journey today. It has been wonderful to have you with us. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.